玉陵绝顶问苍宇，敢向禅宫折桂枝。
China is sending a spacecraft into the moon, and you are now watching a special coverage program on China's lunar mission. 8 days ago, at 4:30, November 24th, at Wenchang Space Launch Site, China successfully launched a Chang'e-5 lunar mission, and this is China's first sampling mission in an extraterrestrial body. And now let's take a look at the launching scene. And the launch was a complete success, and it's laid a solid foundation for the successful mission. After the successful launch, it's readjusted its positions twice, and November the 29th, it had 2 breaks in a lunar orbit, and at 4:30, November 30th, the spacecraft was separated into 2 combinations, one containing the lander and the center, and the other combination containing the orbiter and returner. And then after 2 days of flying in a lunar orbit at 11 p.m. yesterday, it was successfully braked and landed on the moon surface. So what you just saw is the command center, and you can hear the applause. And this is a very successful landing mission. And immediately after the successful landing, the European Space mission tweeted to congratulate China's successful mission, and the European counterpart also said that it would provide technical support to China's lunar mission, and it has tracked China's lunar mission for a couple of hours when it was launched, and when it returns to the Earth, it will also receive signals for Chang'e-5. So we are very much concerned about the status of Chang'e-5, and now let's get connected with our reporters, and now let's get to know them. So we have a reporter, Li Ming from China National Space Administration, and also Shuai Junquan at the Space Observatory of China's Academy of Sciences, and Wang Chunxiao at the laboratory of this lunar mission, and they will bring us the latest. Now let's get connected with Li Ming. So tell us what is the latest. Thank you very much. Well, let me tell you that because we are still having this pandemic, and each time coming into this place, we have to conduct a nucleic acid test, and so that is why I'm still wearing a mask. And sorry for that, because this place is very crucial to the success of the lunar mission. And if we compare the lunar mission as a relay match, then this is the first very important site for this mission, and because this is the command center, and it's very important because all the orders are sent from this very place. And after this background information, now let me tell you what is the latest working status. And over the past 24 hours, we have gone through some milestone moments. I have to talk about the landing, and at 11 p.m. yesterday, we witnessed this very important moment. And let me share with you two details. The first is the landing time, and it's 11 p.m. 11 minutes, so it's actually 2 minutes ahead of our schedule, and this shows that the lander and the ascender, they are in very good state, and after touching down on a lunar surface, they started to drill and take the samples. We have two sampling methods. The first is to simply take some dirt from this lunar surface. The second is to drill, and already we have collected the samples, and we're waiting for the analysis of the sample, and later the result will be released. And we conducted a lot of experiments. For example, we have a panoramic camera that takes pictures at the lunar surface, and later my colleague will bring you the latest. And after that scientific experiment, we started sampling on a surface. Right now, the sampling process is undergoing, and it's a very lengthy process, and it will be completed maybe by next morning, and because the lunar surface is quite different from the surface on Earth. So what are the difficulties we might encounter? How do we solve these difficulties? And so that is why standing beside me we have an engineer. So tell us something about it. So we know that the lunar environment is quite different from the Earth. So what difficulties have we encountered in taking the samples? So sampling on a lunar surface is quite different because it's in vacuum environment, and also the gravity is 1/6 of the Earth, and also we are taking the samples at noon of lunar time, and you can see that we have the sunlight directly reflected from the panels, and it's very high temperature actually. So to take samples at this time of the lunar day, we have to do some special design on those facilities and equipments, and it has to have these perfect cooling functions. Inside the probe, we have a new air conditioning system, and to tell you in plain language, and we are using a very complicated system inside. Basically, it cools down the temperature inside the capsule, inside the probe, and it's quite different from the air conditioner on Earth, because on the Earth we have air, but on the moon there is no air, so we have to use a new technique, and it's a new system that exists in vacuum, and it's tailored for the Lunar 5 probe, and it's kind of very easily solve the problem. So tell us something about the air conditioner. So on Earth, you know how air conditioner works. And when you get sprayed some water, you feel very cool because the water vaporized. The same goes on the moon. And so we basically take away the temperature, and we also have a ascending mission, and the same technique is used in ascender. So later when we move and migrate to the moon, and this air conditioning technology will be used? Yes, definitely, and this will apply to China's manned mission on the lunar surface. So you have been on this mission for how long? I was here from 4 o'clock this morning, and I have been working to this minute. So as the engineer told us that on the moon we have a lot of technologies that are put into place for the first time, and engineer Xiang has been working from last evening to this minute. And let me disclose one detail. I encountered some of the engineers, and they were very relaxed after the successful moon landing, and they feel very relieved, and they were talking about the propulsion of the engine and the brake, which is 7,500 Newton, and so it's truly amazing, although I do not know the details. And so right now we're taking the samples, and there is a lot of attention paid to this, and for details, I believe my colleague Wang Chunxiao, who is at the laboratory center, will give you more information. All right, back to you. Thank you very much, Li Ning, for your latest updates, and we know that all the orders are sent from the command center, and so stay tuned and tell us the latest in a minute. So he mentioned one piece of information that is very important, that this lunar mission was successfully conducted at a time when China is still fighting the pandemic, so it's truly very difficult. And so Jun Quan, so you are at the National Space Observatory deck, and so tell us the latest from your position. So right now I'm at the Chinese Academy of Sciences, and this is the Ground Application System Center, and so we are playing a very important role here. Basically, we're playing two roles. The first is that it will accommodate the samples from Earth, and the other very important role that we take is to manage the scientific data of the soil. And so right now, all the equipments from here have sent back their data. You can see that our scientists, they are working in front of their cameras, in their computer screen, and we have already formulated a simulated video for this moon landing. And now let's have a recap of this video. So you can see that we have a camera that takes pictures when the probe was landing. So Engineer Wen, who is beside me, so please tell us what is the value of this imaging. So this footage was actually edited from the more than 600 photos taken by the camera attached to the lander, and you can see that the landing area is very flat, but despite that, we have a lot of holes and concave places on the land, and so compared to previous missions, this camera has two-folds of the resolution, and it also has a longer range, and so we are right now analyzing the data. So thank you very much, and I believe this will provide a lot of data support for future missions, and this is a very precious footage because it has recorded a history that will be remembered. And we talked about some of the cameras, and now let's interview Mr. Liu, who is another engineer here. So what are the other roles that we play? So one of the missions of Chang'e-5 is to bring back the samples and research into those samples, and we are very much concerned about the surrounding environment of the sampling site. So in addition to the cameras, we have a panoramic camera which can obtain the ambient conditions, and we also have a mineral analyzer which analyzes the mineral composition of the landing site, and beneath that we have a lunar structure detector which helps you to understand the landscape of the landing site. And so over the next 48 hours, a lot of experiments will be conducted. Thank you very much, Mr. Liu. And you can see that this is very important for future researches, and we will be staying focused on this, and I will bring you the latest when there is a new piece of information. All right, thank you very much for giving us the latest, and now let's get connected with Wang Chunxiao, who is a reporter from CGTN. And you can see that Lining is at the command center, and Jinquan is at a place where they have a lot of advanced facilities and equipment. And so, what is special at where you are? Thank you very much, Wang Yan. And now it's my turn to give you the latest. And well, you can consider that I'm right now on the moon. Well, I'm in a simulated environment actually, and we have a place that can simulate the landing site. And from the screen, you can see this is the training site of the landing mission. So, well, stay tuned, and we're gonna tell you more about this place over the next few days. And let me tell you, what is this training site about? And you can see behind me we have a Chang'e-5 probe, and this is a verification model. And what is that for? So when we do the separation and do the sampling, before we make every move, we have to conduct hundreds of experiments, and those experiments are not conducted on the moon, of course, and they are practiced here. They are conducted here in this simulation site. So the lunar probe is right now very busy, and we are also very busy, and so we have to be very prudential in every of the detail. And so right now, standing beside me, we have a scientist who will share with you some of the mysteries behind this mission. So, Mr. Liu, good morning. So we give them a brief introduction that this is a training center, a training site. And so, what is the difference between this place and the real lunar surface? So this is what you'll see. This is a verifier or verification model, and the difference is, so this one here we have a lot more equipment. You can see those white color balloons, and those are simply to simulate the gravity on the lunar surface. And what we don't have is the sampling tube attached to the probe. So those are the differences between these two probes. So you can imagine what is the real scene like. And so here we have more equipment, and but we don't have the sampling stick. So over the next few days, you can take a closer look at this model, and you can imagine what is the real probe doing on the moon. So another question that we have is that, as this mission also features a return journey from the moon, and so right now we have already started to prepare for this mission. So what is the latest progress? So we are right now taking samples on the lunar surface, and we will follow the pre-designated schedule and complete the sampling. Everything is going well underway. So what we are most concerned about is the latest progress. What is the current status? Is everything going as planned? Well, to this point, we have been doing very well, and the lander just had a very soft landing in a very good position, and also the landing site is having very ideal environment. We have some big rocks, and this is very good for our experiment. So you can see that the experiment is going on, and later from this side I will give you more live coverage. And you can see that behind me, this mechanical arm is right behind me, and it's working right now. Why it's working? So what is this gesture about, and how different is this one from the real one on the moon? Well, stay tuned and we will bring the latest later. All right, we staying focused on this, and later I will get connected to our three reporters. And so we get connected with Chun-Xiao, who is standing at a simulation site for this lunar mission. And also in this year, the place has simulated the Mars surface, laying a solid foundation for China's future Mars mission. And later they will get connected with us and to give you the latest, and they will give you the latest from the command center from the Chinese Academy of Sciences, and give you the latest from a data perspective. So the sampling on the moon is a very important mission. So here in this studio we have prepared some mysterious tools. Those are very much related to the real sampling efforts, and a lot of this disclosed to the public for the first time, and later we will be joined by some experts and to give you the latest.
好，这里是嫦娥揽月特别报道，我们继续带您看嫦娥5号蟾宫挖宝。
So this is the special program on China's lunar mission, and right now the probe is conducting a sampling on the moon surface, and we're going to realize 4 firsts. So this will be the first time China takes a sample from the lunar surface. This is the first time that a sender will take off from the lunar surface. The third first is that we're going to conduct an unmanned rendezvous on a lunar orbit. And the fourth first is that we're going to take back the samplings from moon back to Earth at the escape velocity. So those are the 4 firsts. The moon sampling is the very first that we talked about. And so we are now standing, of course, on the shoulders of giants, and we have already launched 5 probes to the moon. And in 2007, Chang'e-1 was launched, and 3 years later, in 2010, Chang'e-2 was successfully launched. In 2013, Chang'e-3, taking the Jade Rabbit probe, and had the first soft landing on the moon. And in 2014, Chang'e-5 T1 test probe accumulated a lot of very valuable data and experience for today's mission. And then in 2018, Chang'e number 4 brought the Jade Rabbit probe and landed successfully on the other side of the moon. And so you can see that this is conducted in a very gradual mission. And we send missions, and then we send probes that landed on the moon. So this is very steady, and we have obtained the full moon imaging and also the high definition image of the backside of the moon. And it is because of these preparations that we have these breakthroughs that we are making today, which is the sampling on the lunar surface. And at midnight last night we landed on the lunar surface. So let me tell you again what this process is about. And when the probe was launched into the outer space, and it has gone through a lot of different adjustments, and it has to transfer from the Earth orbit to the lunar orbit, and then it's braked in a space, and so it has featured a direct transfer of orbit. And this is the same with the Chang'e 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then at a distance of 400 kilometers from the moon, it brakes. It hit the brake because it has to slow down. And because when it approaches the lunar orbit, it was at the velocity of 10 times of the sound speed. And if it is too fast, it will not be captured by the moon gravity. But if we brake too hard, we're going to lose the propulsion, and we may just hit the moon in a hard manner. So it's a lot of requirements on the precision of control. And after 2 brakes in a lunar orbit, and the probe flight around the moon for 2 circles, and in this process, the Chang'e-5 has to be separated into 2 combinations, the lunar and the center, and also the orbiter and returner. The orbiter and returner will stay on the orbit, but the lander and the center will drop gradually to a height of 15 kilometers above the lunar surface, and then it gradually reduces the height from 15 kilometers to 2 kilometers to 100 meters, and all the way to 30 meters, and eventually to 2 meters. At this point, the engine will be closed and it will have a free fall on the lunar surface. If we don't have a free fall, there will be a reacting force from the lunar surface, and it will tilt when it lands. So we have had a very successful landing, and now let's have a recap of the landing footage. So Chang'e-5 mission is right now having its landing, and so we hitting the brake right now, and the purpose of this process is to reduce the relative speed against the lunar surface. So this brake will have a duration of 15 minutes. So you can see that it's actually tilted when it's flying towards the landing site, and the landing site that we have chosen is on the backside of the moon, and the scientists believe that this is a relatively younger area of land, and it's relatively flat, so we can accumulate more experience from this mission. So right now you can see that we have started this process of rapid adjustment. So it's flying very fast, and it has completed its position adjusting, and a while back it was flying in a tilted manner, and right now it's very vertical, and you have to do this little by little, and right now we are approaching the lunar surface. Now the camera is on, and so it's from 1.5 kilometers, and later it will be reduced to a distance of maybe 100 meters. And so right now we are taking a look at the lunar surface with the camera attached to the probe. Right now it's hovering above the lunar surface at a height of 100 meters. So when it was hovering, we're using this laser detector to understand the lunar surface so that we can pinpoint the position of landing. And all right, we have secured the place, and now we're gonna start landing. So this, I believe, is the final stage, the final 30 seconds before we touch down on the lunar surface. At a height of 2 meters, the engine will be turned off. All right, we have a successful landing. So you can see that all the engineers are holding their breaths, and the engine is turned off, and the Chang'e-5 probe has landed successfully on a lunar surface. It is ready for subsequent experiments and also the sampling. So you can tell that we have successfully landed on the moon, and now let's take a look at the specific landing place. So this is the star motion, the name of the area, and this is on the backside of the moon, and so we are actually landing at an area 1,000 kilometers away from this belt, and this is the first time that man has left a print on this part of the moon. And why this area? Because scientists believe that there are relics from volcanoes on the moon, and also the soil on this part of the moon is much younger, and this will be of great value in scientific exploration. And scientists believe that if we could bring back the samples successfully to Earth, it will fill a gap in lunar research. The volcanic activity of the moon reached a peak roughly 3.5 billion years ago, but according to our observation of the moon, some of the areas may contain debris of the volcano from a much younger age, maybe from 1 billion years ago. And if we could bring back the soil and verify that, the history of moon will be changed. The storm ocean is very big, an area on the backside of the moon, and prior to this mission, no probe has ever reached this part of the moon, and so it's a area unknown. In 1960s and 1970s, the United States conducted 6 manned missions on the moon, and they brought back a lot of rocks and material like soil from the moon back to the Earth. The Soviet Union landed in the southeastern part of the moon, and they have taken back 330 grams of samples. And using those samples, scientists believe that the moon had the same origin with Earth, and the moon was formed because of a collision with the meteor against Earth billions of years ago. We believe that at this part of the moon, the rocks are much younger. So this is an area that is most worthy of the scientific research, and we can understand that whether the moon was in a volcanic period 1 or 2 billion years ago. So we need to collect samples from different stages of the moon, and according to our researches, and we have pinpointed this landing place, and with much younger samples and earlier samples, and we can have a better understanding about the evolution of the lunar environment. And like the Soviet Union probe, we are using a probe to take samples. The Soviet Union conducted 3 samplings, and they brought back 330 grams of material, but the Lunar 5 probe will take back 2 kilos of material. So what is the reason behind this difference? And because we have this technology of unmanned rendezvous at the lunar orbit. 50 years ago, the Soviet Union mission features a direct return from the lunar surface, and it's very heavy, and it's encountered a lot of difficulties. But right now, we are having this unmanned rendezvous at the lunar orbit, so we don't need to carry the propulsion and fossil fuel on the center, so it reduces a lot of burden, and we can have a rendezvous at the lunar orbit. According to the magazine of Science, to successfully collect a sample from the Earth, it has to go through great scientific breakthroughs. So if we could bring back those samples, then we can better research into the moon, and it's also very important to future missions in outer space. So truly this is a milestone event. what does the moon have? The moon has moon rock. So what is the moon rock for? The moon rock is what the ancient goddess used to cover the holes of the sky. I believe on the moon there are a lot of old grannies. So I want to go to the moon to take care of them. Well, on the moon, I believe there are a lot of trophies. There are a lot of trophies, and the trophies are for those who land on the moon. So what would you write on those trophies? I would write, congratulations. So who put the trophies there? I think it must be the aliens. So I landed on the moon, and I had one of my teeth fall on a lunar surface, and the tooth will grow as big as the mountain. Well, I had a dream that the lunar probe landed on the moon, and it detected something about Chang'e, and it took back to the Earth. So if we take your car, can we land on the moon? No, it's not a spacecraft. It's not a rocket. It doesn't go to the outer space. Do you want to go to the moon? Yes. So this is a helicopter? Yes, but helicopter won't be able to make it to the moon, and it can only fly in the air. So what kind of gift do you want to send to the moon? I want to give moon a big cake. Well, because I used to be a very good friend with Moon, and when the Moon was celebrating birthday, I gave him a cake. Can you sing a song to Moon? Yes, I want to sing a song for the Moon. I want to sing the song of five-star flag. So when you land on the Moon, what do you want to see the most? I want to see Lady Chang'e. So what do you want to see her? Well, because she is a figure from China's legend. So Chang'e is part of the culture from China's past, and I had a lot of curiosity. Does Chang'e truly exist? So I want to check it out later when I land on the moon. So this is the moon that you draw. Yes, and there is the flag on the moon. Yeah, can't you see that? This is the Chinese national flag. Because this is a very thick pen, and I cannot draw very clearly the little 5 stars. What do you think there are on the moon? Well, I will see a lot of footprints of the astronauts. We have a lot of scientists. Only when they collaborate can we complete this mission, and it takes a lot of money and time. So do you know how long it took? 13 to 14 days, and when it reaches the moon, it has to bring back some soil, some jade to the scientists. Well, I hope I can also land on the moon. How do you go there? Well, I just need to study hard. When I grow up, I make a lot of money, and I landed on the moon on my own. Alright, this is a special program on China's lunar mission. So what we just saw is some interview with the kids, and they have a lot of imagination in the future. And we are joined by 2 guests, and he is Mr. Gao Lei, a program director on the lunar mission, and the other guest is Wang Yaobin, an expert on mechanic arms of the lunar probe. At midnight yesterday, the lunar probe landed on the moon successfully, and right now it's taking samples on the lunar surface. So we're gonna bring on stage the 4 tools that we have on the screen. So we have a lot of tools that we use to take samples from the moon. So tell us, what are those? So Mr. Gao, what is the detector on the lunar surface? So before we take the samples, we conduct a lot of verifications from the ground simulation site, and when everything is tested, we're going to conduct the real maneuver on a probe on the moon. So what is the digger? So the digger, we have a driller and we also have a digger. So it has a lot of professional terms, but to just tell you the plain language, and it's easier to understand. So tell us, what are the other tools? Well, the other tools, we have a fully sealed container, and this is the container that we accommodate the soil, and it will have a rendezvous with the orbiter and then bring back to Earth. And we also have a delivery man. As you have mentioned, this will be the returner. The returner will bring the capsule, or bring the material back to Earth. All right, thank you very much for giving us this very rough introduction. And as we have mentioned a while back, we have a simulation site on the ground. We have a verification model, and through that model, we can conduct a lot of simulations and tests so that we can support the drilling on the lunar surface. All right, let's get connected with Wang Chunxiao, and back to you, Wang Chunxiao. All right, thank you, Wang Yan. And well, let me tell you more about what we have at the ground simulation site. And I'm right now standing at one very important site. Behind me, we have a simulated model, and so Mr. Shi, one engineer, will give us some introduction. So this is a very large place, so we can have some close distance contact with the simulation model, and you can see that in the program a while back, all the kids, they dream to land on the moon. Right now, we gave you a tour, a virtual tour. So this is the simulated environment on the moon. And when I was connecting with the anchor just now, we said that we have a mechanic arm. So tell us why we do not have a lot of the mechanic arms on a real probe. So this is only a model, and we do not have another equipment on a probe. So we do so simply because we want to show you what is the inner structure. And we did that this way because we can have a visual of the structure inside. And we have two guests sitting at the studio, and they will give us very detailed introduction about the drilling part, about every maneuver, every position. And we took a footage prior to this program, and you can see that this is a second view of this drilling cylinder. And when it is drilling, you can see a lot of details, and those are specially designed. And so tell us more about this drilling. And to conduct a successful drilling, you have to rely on this drilling cylinder so that you can dig a hole on the lunar surface and extract the soil from the moon. And we need to drill a hole and then take it back. What you'll now see is the verification task completed on the ground. So this shows that we have conducted the verification. So I have to obtain a lot more details, and I want our camera to focus here. You can see that we have two cylinders. We have cylinder number 1, number 2, number 3. And so on this training site, on this verification simulation site, this is what I can tell you. We have 3 cylinders here, and it can tell you we have gone through a lot of tests. So we have multiple cylinders here because we took into consideration the different environments on the moon, and a lot of that environment is unknown. So to test the performance of the cylinder, we just prepared 3 different cylinders because some of the ground might be very hard and some part of the ground might be very soft. so that we can conduct the experiment in a very targeted manner, and it can provide a lot of support to our real mission. So what you now see is a cylinder from the outside, but inside there are different structures. But here comes the question, and right now the probe is conducting the drilling right now on the lunar surface, and what difficulties have we run into? Well, to this point so far, we're conducting the sampling, and all the maneuvers have been tested on the ground. Well, again, this shows you how confident they are. They have visualized the different tasks and conducted tests here on the ground. So they are very well prepared, and all right, we will be staying focused on that. And so later we're gonna show you how we take soil from the surface. And I'm gonna take you later to another simulation site. All right, back to you, Wang Yan. Thank you very much. And now let's focus on the drilling. So I'm joined by two experts. So, Mr. Gao, we have a small model of the Lunar 5 probe, and so can you tell us more about this? Yeah, can I hold it? Yes. So from the ground simulation site, you can see that this is the cylinder, and we have a drill inside the cylinder, and we also have the extractor, sample extractor from the top. So for the drilling, we are mainly referring to the drilling rod, and it's basically drill a hole on the ground, and it can be pushed deep into the lunar surface, and then we have a sample extractor. And when the drilling is completed, we have a motor that can bring back the drilling rod and take the sample in a cylinder. All right, and this is a very detailed introduction. So tell us, Mr. Wang, what difficulties can we possibly run into? So the most difficult problem that we might encounter is that the unknown environment on a lunar surface, because there might be some small particles, some rocks. So rocks from the moon, they are very hard. They have a very high level of hardness, and if we encounter a rock, it will be very difficult. And we can see later a footage sent live from the moon, and we can get to know more later. So just go ahead. So if we have a rock on the surface, it will be very difficult, and this is the biggest challenge. And also from the perspective of structural design, we have to take the sample and then put it in a fully sealed container. And you can see that if it is filled with load, if it is fully loaded, it's very difficult for it to take off from the moon. So that is why we have in place a fully designed center. So in this process, no matter it is the drilling or the extraction, it poses a lot of requirements on technology, but we have a lot of breakthroughs. So the drilling itself is very difficult. And so how do we load the cylinder when a sample is taken? So that must be very difficult. Well, that will lead us to the special tool that we have introduced a while back, and Mr. Gao will give us a demonstration about this special tool. So this is a rope that we placed inside the cylinder. It's actually 2.5 meters long. Well, let's fully stretch it to show to our audience. And it's attached to an even longer rope, and after the sample is taken, we will be using this rope to bring the samples to the cylinder. So this is the rope that the drilling system is using on the lunar surface, and I feel it's very light. What kind of fabric is this? So this is a special fabric that we designed, taking into consideration the specific environment of the moon. It's a composite material, and I have noticed another detail because I'm wearing a dog suit, and let me use this white paper as a backdrop, and you can see that at the end of this rope and we have two very thin hooks. And what are those for? So it's, when you complete the drilling and sampling, and these two hooks, they can fully seal the bottom part of the rope. So how much material we're going to collect? So it's very precise, and so Mr. Gao mentioned about those two hooks. There are actually two sets of such hooks, which works as a second protection layer. After the sample is taken, we're gonna use a motor to extract the rope so that it will take back the material and it will close the other end, and so it's very precise. So let me show you again. So this is the metallic hook on one end of the rope, and so you can see that so this is a drilling and the extraction mission, and we talked about drilling, and now we're going to talk a little bit about the extraction of material from the lunar surface. And it was a scientific research result from the Hong Kong University of Technology, and our journalist paid a visit to the Hong Kong University of Technology. And now let's take a look. So this contains two extractors. It can take back materials from the lunar calendar, and attached to these two cylinders are two high-definition cameras. And this material, this technology can actually support full sealed containing. And what's on my hand is a can, and it may look very ordinary, but it's undertaking a very important mission. It has to take back the sample from the moon back to the Earth. And now let's take a look how special it is. And first, take a look at the lid. It has a lock. So when the Lunar 5 probe was in the air and it's closed, but once the material is put into the container, it will be fully locked and sealed. And you can also take a look at the lid, and there are some zigzags. What is this for? Well, it can support lightweight design, and so this research program was undertaken by Hong Kong University of Polytechnic, and it was led by Professor Rong Qiliang, and based on his understanding of the lunar environment, his team studied this program in 2017. So we have conducted a lot of successful missions to the probe. We were able to learn a lot about the environment, and this time through this mission we can take back some materials from the lunar surface and to research into the soil conditions on an area that is relatively younger on a moon, so that we can open a new chapter in our understanding of the moon. So there are a lot of difficult points, of course, but we are very lucky to be supported by the national authority. So Hong Kong Polytechnic University is the only higher education institution in Hong Kong that has a space research laboratory, and since 2016 it has taken part in a lot of the national missions, and it has worked out a lot of the mechanical arms, for example, the Chang'e-3 and Chang'e-4. The cameras on those probes were researched by this university. The team from Hong Kong Polytechnic University will also support the Chang'e-5 mission with its leading technology. So this is very meaningful, and I think that through this program, we are making contribution to the country, and in the meantime, we are improving the recognition globally to our research expertise so that the Hong Kong general public will participate better and more into the progress of the country. All right, now let's take a look at the latest at 4:53 this morning. The lunar probe has completed the sampling, and the samples have been put into the container, and right now the sampling on the soil of the lunar surface is still well underway, and so we have two different ways of extraction. We drill and we also take soil from the lunar surface. So right now the lunar probe is taking this mission, and this is the drilling rope, and the drilling rope has completed its mission according to the latest, and so now let's use this on board to tell our viewers what this mission is about. So this is the drilling rod. So Mr. Gao, tell us more about these different colors. What do they represent? The outer layer, white-colored rope, is the outer drilling rock, and it can rotate. The green-colored one, the red-colored one is the inner drilling rod. So it's fixed there, it's static, and the red-colored one is the rope, sampling rope that we have just demonstrated, and it will be attached to the inner drilling rod, and it stays static, and it can lower its height with the outer drilling rod, and then the material collected will be put into the rope, and we have just given you a demonstration how it closes its hole on one end, and then we are relying on another motor which takes back the rope. In the meantime, the bottom hole will be fully sealed using the two metallic hooks. So this is the red-colored one. It represents the rolling rope, and it's actually entangled on this collection cylinder, which is attached to a motor. So can you show us where this is on a model? So it's very tiny, and this is the cylinder position. And eventually the material will be loaded to this container attached to the top. All right, according to the latest, the drilling has completed, and right now they are conducting sampling of soil from the lunar surface. So from the simulator, you know where the drill is attached, and this is at the front edge, and you have a giant tube at the studio. What is this for? So this is the mechanical arm for the sampling. So there are two extractors. The first is, well, both of these tools, they have the capacity to take samples from the lunar surface. So we have multiple mechanical arms on that simply for insurance purposes, and you can see that it can wobble, and we can hear the sound already, and you can see that this is the first format of its taking materials, and the second way is to use a shovel. We have a shovel that can hold out from the one edge of this mechanic arm. So the footage that you see is sent from the moon just now, and you can see that the very part at the very part at the top, is that the one that you just demonstrated? Yes, this is the shovel that I have just showed you. So this is the shovel. The shovel is a lot easier. So because the lunar surface might be very hard, so that is why we have a ventilator. So when it is shoveling on the lunar surface, it will also vibrate. So it's very smart. So those are the two different ways of sampling. And also, if we encounter some very big rocks, then we can make it upright, and we will use this structure to simply grab the large rock. So this is the first mechanic arm, which can support 3 different ways of sampling. So it's truly powerful. So these are contingency plans that we have designed just in case. So now let's take a look at the other mechanic arm, and you can see that there are a lot of tools attached to the front end, and you can see that when the soil is very soft, we can simply shovel a lot of soil. But when it encounters some very hard material, it can rotate and it can cut. It can also rotate, and when it rotates, it can cut the material. So what are those lotus-shaped blade for? So when we are rotating, the moon soil will enter this container. So when it reaches the certain level of quantity, these blades will be closed, and it will take the material and then put it into the container. So this is the other mechanic arm that we have attached on the probe. So I can tell that we have multiple ways of sampling, and it's a lot of redundancy in terms of design. And I want to show you again this sampling rope. So is this sampling rope the same as the one used on a probe? Yes, it is absolutely the same, and this mechanic arm that we just demonstrated is also the same as the real mechanic arm used on the probe. Well, it's such a rare opportunity. I have to have some hands-on experience on that. Truly, this is very heavy. Well, I think this is 6 to 7 kilos. Wow, this is truly amazing. And on one end of this mechanic arm, we have a camera. Where is it? Yeah, I can show you where it is from here. We have 2 cameras actually. So no matter what way of sampling that we are using, the camera is able to film the whole process, so we can know whether we are successful with the sampling mission. So through these 2 sampling ways, where will the soil be put into eventually? And I can see that you have another 2. So this is a container that is attached to the probe, and this is what they call the preliminary containing equipment. So we have a painting here. I want you to use this picture to tell where this is. So this equipment that I have just showed is in that circle, and you can see that we have this lander, and then the center, it's located between these 2 probes. So when it was launched, it was pressed to a much smaller size. So this is simply to guarantee the success of the launching mission. And after it is landed on the moon, and it will be expanded. Now without a motor, it doesn't move, but actually we have a motor attached to this rod, and which can rotate and open the container, which is like a bottle. So this is the preliminary material containing equipment. So this is like a super large bottle, and so that part is simply the controlling part, and through that motor we can open the lid and put it somewhere else, and then we can rotate another shovel to on top of this container. So if we are using this shovel, we can very precisely load this bottle with the soil, and then we can use the motor again to seal this bottle. And so when everything is completed, we will use the motor to cover this bottom with the lid and then fully lock it. So from this footage, I think our viewers can try to isolate which part that we are talking about and where they are attached to this probe. And right now, they are taking samples on the lunar surface. So you already talked about sealing and covering the lid, and it's not as easy as what you do when you are drinking water from a bottle and then cover the bottle. And so this is what we do. We're using a motor. So the footage that you see is the drilling process. This is taken by the camera attached to the probe, and you can see that we actually have two cameras. On this part of the drilling rod, we have one camera. So this is the footage it has taken. So it has to drill into the ground, and if we take material and soil from the lunar surface, we are relying on three different manners. So when we drill, it's a vertical position, vertical direction. But in addition to drilling, we are also simply grabbing some soil from the lunar surface. So that is why we have attached two different mechanic arms supported by multiple different ways of sampling methods. So we can select the area that is the easiest to take samples and also take back the most important material. And you can see this is, again, a recap of this drilling footage. So you can see that each time we go deeper, it's very difficult, and you can tell us maybe what is this about. So it's two different colors. At the bottom end, the dark color is a special composite material. The function of that is to drill deep into the moon ground, because we're not sure whether there are rocks beneath the soil, beneath the surface. It has to resist to high temperature. It has to have very high hardness. The white-colored one is a lot different. It doesn't need to counter the difficulties the frontal part encounters. So that is why it's another material. It's also composite. But do you have the design to maybe reduce the weight? It's very well set, and this is designed to lower the weight of the whole equipment. And sometimes when it is necessary to encounter the difficulties, we're using alloys, but when there is no such need, we're using some composite material. So we have talked a lot about drilling and sampling and extraction of soil on a lunar surface. And right now, the lunar probe, the lander, is taking samples from lunar surface. And now let's get connected to Li Ning, who is at the command center of the lunar mission. So tell us the latest. All right, Wang Yan. As you have probably heard, we have completed the drilling, and right now we are taking soil samples from the lunar surface. From the footage, you can see the print that we have left along the lunar surface. We're using two different ways, the drilling and also sampling from the ground. So what are the difficulties of taking soil samples from the lunar surface? And I'm joined by an engineer who is an expert in controlling the mechanic arm. Well, Mr. Yu, please. So we call it shoveling. I think this is a very good term. I think this is a very good analogy, very vivid. So we're basically shoveling soil from the lunar surface. So how difficult it is to conduct this shoveling from a distance of 340 kilometers? Well, there are a lot of uncertainties because we do not know the environment in advance. We do not know where exactly we are going to land, and also we have a very tight schedule, and we can only complete the task within 48 hours because this is our design, and so we have to complete the task within a designated time window. So we have been shoveling for a number of hours, and how are we doing out there? So we are doing everything very smoothly. We have conducted for sampling of the soil. So when will that last? Well, that will last till midnight tomorrow. So you will be stationed here in the command center. And I can see that you are very exhausted. Yes, from 11 o'clock last night, I have been working to this moment. So when the Chang'e mission is out there, you won't take any rest. Exactly. All right, thank you very much. And you can see that we are very successful in drilling and also in sampling on the ground. You can see that everything is going smoothly, and I will stay focused on this and give you the latest. Thank you very much, Li Ning, for your latest coverage. And you can see that we are very successful, and we have already taken 4 different samplings on the lunar surface. And now let's go to the ground simulation site. So what are the interesting knowledge points that you can give us at this point? All right, now let's come back again to this simulation site on the ground. So we were talking some of the specific processes of taking samples from the ground, from the lunar surface. You can see this is a very spectacular scene. You can hear this sound. You can hear this sound, and we are simulating the process that is taking place on the moon. And from this footage, you can see there are some dust. What this simulator is doing is taking samples on the ground. So I'm joined by an engineer who can tell you more about this process. So what is this sound about? So what is the mechanic arm doing? So this is the surface sampling, and the sound that you can hear is from the shovel. The shovel can be extended. It can also be taken back. So basically, it is able to put the soil sample to the container. So basically, it's putting all the material collected to the container. So what is the movement prior to that? And you can actually see from this simulation site. And well, let me show you behind me that we have a place that simulates the environment on the lunar surface. Well, I can tell you that this ground site is designed according to the image sent from the moon last night. So it's a real simulation of the environment on the moon. And let's zoom in, and you can see those rocks. And you can even see that the print that we left after shoveling is the same as it is on the moon. So what you now see from this simulation site is almost exactly the same from the moon. So this is a 100% simulation of what is going on the moon. So we're having a close contact with the real simulation. So now comes another question. How are we able to come up with a simulation environment that is exactly the same in terms of rocks, soil, and landing environment? So on the lander, we have surveillance cameras that can take pictures, and then the pictures are formulated and edited into footage, videos, and it was made into some 3D images. And with the image, we can reconstruct the environment. You can take a look at the large rock, and you can also take a look at the surface, the curves of the ground. And so we are able to reconstruct the environment according to the images and photos sent to us. So this can exert a lot of support to the actual mission on the moon. So this is for the simulation, and it was used to test all the different designs when the mission was before the mission was launched. But right now, when the mission is well underway, we are also very busy. Yes, exactly. We are going to provide a lot of support to the mission, which means that all the maneuvers here that you see are the same with the real probe that is on the moon. All right. Well, let me show you another big part of this probe. And yesterday, the landing was very successful, and we were just given a very precious footage. The Chang'e-5 probe, relying on its own camera, it has taken a footage of the drilling, and so now let me show you in this morning. At where I am right now, we are conducting a simulated drilling, and you can take a look at this mechanic arm and how it is taking soil from the lunar surface. From this image, we can tell you that this is almost exactly the same with what is going on the moon, and you can see that this is how the shovel takes soil from the lunar surface and then bring it back to the container. So truly this is a very precious footage, and we are right now taking more samples from the lunar surface. So what is the latest progress? So tell us more. So we're conducting the simulation in a synchronized manner, in a simultaneous manner, and we are following our plans. Up to this point of time, we are doing every maneuver according to our plans. All right, thank you very much for telling us the latest. Now back to you, Wang Yan. Thank you very much, Chen Xiao, for giving us the latest. So you give us this real-time image and footage from the ground simulation site, and we also saw a footage from the moon, and they look so identical and so synchronized. So from this, you can see, from the footage that we just saw, you can see how this shovel works. When the soil is put in the shovel, it can take back, and all the soil is put under the shovel. Tell us where the soil will end up eventually. It will be taken up all the way to this part. So this is this equipment that we just saw, and it will pour the soil to this container as we have introduced just now. So I'm very curious why we need to do the drilling first and then work on the surface sampling. So why do we separate these two missions? So this has a lot to do with the energy consumption of the probe. The drilling takes a lot of energy. If we conduct these two missions simultaneously, bear in mind we have a camera that is working at the same time. If all these three parts of the systems work together, there will be a lot of risk in terms of energy consumption. So that is why we put the drilling first, and then we conduct the surface sampling so we can use the energy in a very effective manner. And also from the measurement perspective, we have an orbiter that is flying, that is staying at the lunar orbit. It has conducted a lot of maneuvers, and it has to rely on a lot of monitoring and surveillance. So we're relying on this orbiter, and if we do this two sampling all the time together, it will pose a lot of burden to also our system overall. So how much time we need to do the surface sampling? Well, that depends on how much material that we take back, and as was mentioned, we have already conducted 4 successful sampling on the surface, and it will be conducted multiple times. And when this cylinder is almost fully loaded, we're gonna complete this job, and then this bottle will be fully sealed. So the sealing is very important. It has to guarantee that the material that we take from the lunar surface is not polluted, and it's brought back to Earth in a very clean manner and safe manner. So tell us more about the potential difficulties and milestones on a journey back. Well, I think it was introduced at the very beginning of this program, and after this container is fully sealed, after it is ascended and taken off from the lunar surface, the very first step is to take off from the moon, and then it will enter the lunar orbit and have a docking and rendezvous with our orbiter. This is also the first time China has done that, and it's very difficult. Then it will change its orbit from moon to Earth. Then it will approach the Earth. Then it will conduct another separation. So already we have gone through a lot of experiments and real missions in the past, but this time we still encounter a lot of challenges in terms of precision control. So truly we have a lot of difficult points to solve, and we have to guarantee safety. So this is very interesting, the overall process of sealing. And tell us more about the sealing process. So as I mentioned before, each time we take soil samples from the lunar ground, we have to take it to the container, because each time we pour some soil to the container, we have to measure the level of loading, and we have to fully seal this container when it is fully loaded. And after that is fully sealed, it has to be lifted up and then put into another container. And bear in mind, this is only the preliminary containing equipment, and we have a secondary containing equipment. So tell us where it is. As I was introducing, so after the drilling was completed, the sample was put into the preliminary drilling sample containing equipment, and then it will be transferred to the outer layer. And eventually we're going to rely on this sampling mechanic arm, and the material will be put into the container located at the very center. So this is the preliminary containing equipment for the sampling on ground. So you can tell that it has very clear division of labor, and we have 3 different layers of containers. So we take the samples in a separated manner, and then eventually they will be put into a place. So it's very well designed, because we have mentioned that when we do drilling, it has to rotate. It has a very large diameter, and so we are using this inner space of this probe very effectively. So this is the sampling rope. Sampling rope has to be entangled with this outer layer of the container, and so the container at the very center is very tight. So we mentioned there is a data. There's a value called 10 to minus 9. And what is that? So you know that the lunar surface is a fully vacuum environment, and after taking the samples, we have to take it back to the Earth, and we will encounter the atmosphere of the Earth. So we have to guarantee that the material is intact. So that is why it's fully sealed. So we have to guarantee a protected environment. So that is why we have a 10 to minus 9, 10 to minus 9 value. So this is the pressure value, and it's a very hard value to reach. So basically it tells you that this is the best protection that we could give to the material contained in a container. So we talked about the different tools. We have talked about the sealing, and so as this program is going on, we gave you a lot of introductions about the drilling, about the surface sampling, and now let's take a look at another footage to have a recap of this process. Welcome back to this special program on China's lunar mission. Now let's get connected to Shuai Jinqian, who is at the Observatory Office of the Chinese Academy of Sciences. So tell us about the latest.
好的，王岩。我现在呢依然是在中国科
Well,
学院
thank
国家
you,
天文台哈，这
Wang
里是我
Yan.
国探月工程的
I'm
地面
right
应
now
用
at
系统
the
所在地。
National
那么
Space
在这次探月工程当中
Observation
呢，它依然承担着非
Station
常
of the
重要
Chinese
的作
Academy
用。
of Sciences,
除
and
了
this
对
place
于
plays a
今后
very
的月
important
成像
role.
进行一个存储、管理、分析之外呢，
We
还有
will
一个重要的工作
manage and store the material taken back from the moon, and in the meantime, we're going to analyze into the data of this mission. As you might know, that the lunar mission successfully landed on the moon. We are completing the sampling on the lunar surface starting from midnight yesterday. We are receiving a lot of data sent back from the moon, and we worked around the clock to present you a real 3D image. So this is the landing footage. So the footage, as I introduced, it's actually pictures taken by those cameras installed on the lander. So what are the features of this image? So tell us more. To tell us more, we have engineer Wen. So this image is actually put together using 600 photos taken by the camera. We're using a high-definition camera. The definition is one-fold better, and so we hope that in the future it will take a lot of very important data. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Wen. And you can see that this image is actually formulated by 400 plus photos taken by the camera. So this is very high definition, but we have a very important result, which is a full panoramic image, which is now projected on the screen. This is the landing site. So what is the features of this image? Mr. Li, tell us about the image of this landing site. So this is taken by this full panoramic camera. Through this image, we can understand the geological features of the ground. From this image, you can see that we are landing at a very flat area. So from this part, you can see a rock, and researching into the data, we can understand the composition of the rock, understand the geological features of the rock, and we can conduct further researches about how the rock came into being and what kind of geological information this rock can reflect about the moon. So why we selected this region as the landing site? So the selection of the landing area is the result of scientific researches taking into consideration the safety of the mission and also the needs of sampling. Up until this point of time, only Soviet Union and the United States have landed on the back part of the moon, have taken back samples from the moon. And each time we have more samples from the moon, we can dramatically improve our knowledge about the moon so that we can understand better how the moon came into being. Thank you very much, Mr. Li. So from your introduction, we can see the material from the moon is very important. In the 1970s, we were donated from the United States 1 gram of material from the moon. Ouyang Ziyuan, who is the head of the research team in China, researched into 1 gram of material, and with that, 14 scientific papers were published. So you can tell how precious the samples from the moon and the samples from the moon are. And so this time we're going to bring back 2 kilograms of material, and that will be very important for future researches. So this place will hold and accommodate the samples from the moon. So we are very much looking forward to this moment. And let me ask Mr. Li again. So for this sample, what will we be looking into? What are the scientific values behind this? So we will mainly look into the samples of moon soil. So we will be looking into some debris of the rock. For example, its physical structure, its status, then the composition of different elements, different minerals. What is the type of the original composition, how it was made, how it evolved. We may also get to know when it was formed. We will also look at its isotopic level. So this will help us understand better about the moon rocks, and it will be applied in other related research. So this is a very fundamental research. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Li. So in addition to those fundamental research programs, our scientists will delve into more in-depth researches about the moon, about the evolution of the moon, and also the evolution of the Earth. So I will give you the latest, and I will stay focused. Back to you, Wang Yan. So thank you very much for giving us this very high-definition image. And let's continue with the sampling and continue with the report. We have already conducted the drilling, and the samples are now being taken from the lunar surface. And now let's talk about the delivery process. I'm talking about the return journey of the probe back to Earth. So to complete this mission, we have a ascender which will take off from the lunar surface. Then when it reaches the lunar orbit, it will join with the other 2 partners, modules, and then it will take back the soil and rock from the moon back to the Earth. After entering the Earth's orbit, it will enter the atmosphere and touch down the surface of the ground. So you can see that there are multiple processes in this journey. So after we are successful with the sampling, how do we transfer those material back? Well, this is a lengthy journey, and it's a relay mission. So the very first step is the lander. The lander is using 2 mechanic arms to shovel soil from the lunar surface, and then it will put them into a big metallic container, and then it will be transferred to the ascender. So the moon is so far away. How do we transfer that back? So consider that as a wagon, as a cargo plane, but it's cannot fly directly to the moon, and it has to take off from the lunar surface, and then it will be elevated to a height of 200 kilometers above the lunar surface, where it will have a rendezvous to the orbiter. The orbiter stays on the orbit for 48 hours. So that is the third part of the process. So how do they dock when they are in the air? So it's 380,000 kilometers away, and it's very difficult, but we have a docking mechanism. We have mechanic arms that can grab the counterparts of the other modules. So we have 3 such sets of equipment, and when we grab and then we hold it firm. So truly this is like a giant robots. Are they gonna come back together as one piece? No. After taking those containers back, it will separate. So after the rendezvous, the retainer combination will take the whole mission, but they won't be entering the Earth as one combination. And at a distance of roughly 5,000 kilometers from the Earth, it will have a separation, and eventually it is the retainer that will take back the material from the moon. All right, we saw a small clip of cartoon, and we got to know how the whole process is like, and so we are making a lot of breakthroughs for firsts. So let me ask Mr. Wang, why are we using this mechanism? Why not, take the material back directly from the lunar surface? Well, theoretically, you can do that, but in reality, I can tell you that without taking the ascender, it can dramatically reduce the weight. So this allows you to lift off with a lighter weight. And if you take all the modules, it's a lot of burden and a lot of load. So that is why the safest manner is to separate with the lander and then just for the ascender to take off from the moon. So it's technically more important, more difficult, but it's more safe this way. So this allows you to take back a lot of material because, for example, Soviet Union took back 30 grams, but we are able to bring back 2 kilograms of samples. So tell us how you compare the rendezvous in the lunar orbit and the Earth orbit. Traditionally, the rendezvous and docking on a Earth orbit, because it's around the Earth, we can rely on a lot of the ground observation centers and also the satellites, so we can pinpoint the position and the distance between two modules. But the moon is 380,000 kilometers away, and it's unmanned docking. It's very difficult because those two modules, they are very small, and there's no way that we can use ground-based observation centers, and nor we are able to rely on the satellites on the Earth. So these two modules, they have to find each other in outer space. It's a lot more difficult in terms of control. Behind us, we have a screen that shows you the image. So this is the process of how the rendezvous is made and how the return journey is completed. And so when we are doing navigation on our cell phone, you have to first understand where you are right now and then ask yourself where you are going. Imagine how difficult it is. It must be exponentially difficult when you are 380,000 kilometers away. Well, there's no way that you can locate yourself. And it's only the two modules, the lander and the ascender and the orbiter, they have to find each other. So let me ask you, Mr. Wang. So after the retainer comes back to the Earth's atmosphere, it has to hit a brake. Why is that? If we enter the atmosphere of the Earth, it's a lot of speed, and it can dramatically raise the temperature at the outer layer to reduce the temperature. So it will have this curve, and it will jump on the layer of the atmosphere, and it can dramatically reduce the temperature. All right. Now let's come back to the sampling of the probe. And right now the probe is taking samples from the lunar surface. And this is the busiest moment of the lunar probe. And now let's get connected with Wang Chunxiao. So tell us the latest knowledge points. All right. Now let's bring you the latest. And I'm joined by engineer Mr. Shi. So you can see that we are even closer to the mechanic arm. It's only 1 meter away behind us. And through this image, you can see that the mechanic arm is moving slightly back. What does it mean? So you can see that the shovel is fully extended. It will go closer to the surface. When it reaches the certain height, it will take a shovel. All right, so we're going to take a shovel. So it's static right now. It doesn't mean that the mechanic arm is not working. It might be analyzing the data. It might be, watching the situation. So how do you understand this way? How do you understand it? Well, it's not fully, stopping working, and it's making preparations for its next move. You can see that the mechanic arm is moving closer to us. On the ground, you can see some simulated soil. This is the ground view, and so this is the simulator that is modeling the position of the probe. So we do the sampling within this range of ground, but we have a team that is going on with its mission around the clock. This is just like the engineers sitting in front of the giant command screen. Starting from 2015, we have conducted 400 experiments. We have made a lot of sacrifices of our personal time, and we did all this to guarantee the success of today's sampling mission. So we are very willing to make those sacrifices. You can see that this simulation site is very important, because this time we have a return journey, and we're going to bring back the material taken from the moon. So this is one new part of the mission. We are drawing close to the very end. So tell us more about this team, and let's walk closer to this team. And those are people just like us, but they have been working around the clock to guarantee the success of this mission. So tell us more about your colleagues. Well, my colleagues, the average age of them is less than 40. It's very young. And this is also the most difficult stage in our life, but they make no complaints. They have made a lot of sacrifices to guarantee the success of the lunar mission, the Chang'e-5 lunar mission. So we can guarantee that the mission is successful, and to do that, everybody is working very hard. So from drilling to sampling on the surface, the probe is still busy making all the moves, and starting from yesterday evening and up until present, everybody is working around the clock. And I can tell how exhausted you are from your eyes. If you were given another chance to say a few words to our probe, what would you say? So Chang'e-5 probe, from the very early stage, it has traveled a journey of actually 10 years. 10 years don't seem a very big number, but it takes a big chunk of your life. So the very first mission that we pick up when we entered this organization was Chang'e-5. So we have been working on this mission for all my professional career. So we have to try our utmost to guarantee the success of this mission. So we have the confidence to secure a final success. All right, you can see that the engineer hopes the very best of this mission, and let's hope the very best of this mission. All right, back to you, Mr. Wang Yan. Thank you very much, Chen Xiao, for your latest report, and we can imagine the Chang'e-5 probe is busy working on the moon, as our engineers have mentioned that they have been working on this mission for 10 years. And right now we have completed the drilling, and the sampling is right now underway. And what are the future tasks? So I think we have to look towards the outer space after this mission is successful. And after this technology is verified through Chang'e-5 lunar mission, it will lay a very solid foundation for future research programs in outer space. We are playing this footage again, and I believe that this drilling technology will be applied in future missions. So we selected an area with younger soil and younger landscape. Does that mean that we have a lot of mysteries on the moon? Do we plan to conduct more such missions in the future? When we were connecting with the journalist at the field, so this is only part of the stage 3 objective, and followed by that we will maybe build a lunar space station. A lot of the engineers at the front line, they have made a lot of sacrifices going forward. We will continue to do a better job in planning for deep space exploration, and we will make our contribution to building a socialist modern country. All right, thank you very much. And right now, the sampling is well underway, and let's wish the very best of this mission, and eventually we can bring back the soil to Earth. And after this sampling task, we're going to take 3 major tasks: the takeoff from the moon, the rendezvous in a lunar orbit, and then the return to Earth. This channel will stay focused on this mission, and we will bring you the latest at each milestone. Thank you very much to our 2 guests. Thank you very much for watching this program. Bye-bye.